Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of Babes in Bookland. I'm so excited to bring you some wonderful memoirs this season and some great discussions. Be sure to follow the show on Instagram at Babes in Bookland Pod for updates and sneak peeks into what books we'll be discussing each month, plus other fun content. For our first episode of this season, we're going back to Sorry I'm Late, I Didn't Want to Come, An Introvert's Year of Living Dangerously by Jessica Pan. This is a FREE-lease of the extended version of my discussion with my friend Misty. And I think it's really cool to stop and look back and realize just how far you've come, what you've let go of, what you've held on to, what you've found, how you've continued to become the person that you want to be. Jessica's memoir is all about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and trying to live a happier life, and that's what I wish for all of my listeners as we continue to grow and learn together. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me. Let's get to the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Babes in Bookland, a podcast where each episode I discuss a memoir written by a woman with an incredible woman from my own life. I'm your host, Alex Franca. I am so grateful that you're here as we go on this journey of discoveries and self-discoveries together. I wanted to start off with this book because it's all about saying yes to things that scare you and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. Today, I am talking about Sorry I'm Late, I Didn't Want to Come, One Introvert's Year of Saying Yes by Jessica Pan. And I'm going to discuss this book with appropriately my very first friend, Misty. So glad you're here. Hi, Misty.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for asking me to join you.
I know that you didn't get a chance to read this book, but I really loved it. Finishing it was kind of like saying goodbye to a friend. I was definitely bummed. She's so funny, and her journey is just really encouraging. And it's grounded by this earnest desire to live a fuller life, which is definitely one of my main goals. I also really appreciate when someone identifies a problem or something that they'd like to change in their lives, and then they seek out the help and take the necessary steps to do it. I just really found Jessica Pan's book so inspiring, and her overall desire to feel more connected to the world really resonated with me. Are you ready to hear more?
Ready. Let's do it.
The book came out in 2019, and her dedication is this: For Ian, Wo Aini. Let's get into some quick discussion topics. Jess calls herself a shintrovert, which is a shy introvert. And I wanted to know, I sent you a link to a quiz. So are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm 100% an extrovert. I think that that's pretty much a given. I've been that way my whole life. Took the quiz and it said, you're an extrovert.
Ah, ding, ding, ding.
And it wasn't even an in-between extrovert or anything subcategory. It just said, as an extrovert, you tend to be outgoing. You enjoy spending time with other people, which is really true, and feel energized in social situations. You definitely don't mind being the center of attention sometimes. And while some might think you can be too talkative, this generally makes you seem friendly, and you find it easy to meet new people and make new friends.
Oh, I would say that's pretty spot on for you, though you've never struck me as someone who wanted to be center of attention. You're just that person at a party who's having a good time.
Actually, I hate being the center of attention. I hate my birthday. I did not like the attention at my bachelorette party. I wanted all of my friends to have more fun. Same with our wedding. I wanted my friends to be having fun,
which we all did.
But yes, so I think that was actually pretty spot on as well.
Do you think you being an extrovert had anything to do with you being an only child? Like, your default was being by yourself, so you sought out the company of others. And that was something that was exciting to you because it felt different. And I think I'm sort of projecting because I was raised an only child, and I know that I thrived when I could be around other people.
I think maybe my parents just always, if I wanted to do something, it had to be with other kids because I didn't have built-in friends at home.
Right.
I always had to put myself out there if I wanted to do something with friends. Even to this day, if I want to do something, I have no shame in initiating. I'm the over inviter. I feel physical pain excluding someone, and I'm always kind of the initiator when it comes to making plans.
Yeah.
I think maybe that does have something to do with being an only child.
Yeah. And it just makes sense to me. And I think it's one of the reasons why you and I connected so quickly at an early age was because we knew what it meant to not have that person that you could be around by default. So we had each other. I have so many wonderful memories of growing up with you. Okay. So are you ready for my quiz results? According to the quiz, I am an ambivert.
Are you a little bit of both? It has to be the right time.
I'm a little bit of both. That's right. It has to be the right time. I do think when I was younger, I was alone a lot. I craved being around other people. But as I have gotten older, I do wonder if having kids has been a big part of this because I like to be as present as possible with them, to lean into the yes, to always try to answer their questions. There's some give and take there, but sometimes it's really mentally, emotionally draining to be on for someone. And when you have kids, they live with you 24/7. So I definitely appreciate my alone time now. Or with my husband, we just can sit next to each other in bed and like
Be in the same room.
Yeah, recharging. The website said, like most people, you fall somewhere in between extroversion and introversion. You like spending time with other people, but only if you can balance it with time to yourself. You're okay with attention on occasion, but probably don't want to be in the spotlight every day. It all depends on the situation.
Pretty spot on. I mean, I feel like when we were growing up, you would invite me over for a sleepover, and like Friday and Saturday, you were really into it. And then by Sunday, you're like, okay, bye. Get out of here. Oh, like I'm ready to have my alone time.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be by myself.
I don't even know if I do it consciously, but I bring the energy when I'm around other people. And people bring the energy out of me. Don't get me wrong. I'm so excited. But then yeah, my battery just maybe drains a lot faster that way.
I think if you have the mentality that you have to be on when you're doing something, for example, at work, I feel a lot more tired when I'm on at work
Yeah.
and then I come home versus being surrounded by my friends or family. I don't have that same degree of being on.
Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction. And I think at the end of the day, it's just great for us to know these things about ourselves so we can best support ourselves mentally and emotionally. All right, let's go on to the next quick topic. At one point, in order to combat her shyness, Jess is told to go up to strangers and ask, "Excuse me, but who is the Queen of England?" She is in England at this time, and the Queen is still alive. The person who told her to do this, she goes, "No way. They're going to look at me like I'm so stupid and weird." And her mentor replies, "So the person thinks you're stupid, and that's the end. Life goes on. There are millions of people in the world. There will be some who think that we're stupid, and that's fine." What do you think about that? Because I really hate thinking that other people think I'm stupid. And it's not even like I need people to walk away from a conversation with me thinking I'm exceptionally smart or anything like that.
You don't want people to think down on you or think less of you.
I don't want people to underestimate me because I've felt underestimated my entire life. I don't know. I got to look into that a little bit more.
I just feel like you bring more to the table than you're giving yourself credit for.
Oh.
And that's what I have to tell myself is I can offer something besides brains.
Do you care if people think you're stupid?
I generally don't care if people think I'm stupid because in my profession, I'm a technical sales rep. I work in the field. 99% of the people I talk to are smarter than me. They're chemists, they have PhDs or some sort of masters. And so I have no issue saying that I'm not the smartest person in the room. And I embrace that. I think that people who are smart, they like if you don't try to compete with them to be the smartest person in the room. So I use that to my advantage to try to let people open up and maybe talk more about what they are interested in or, see where they want the conversation to go. So it's kind of a disarming tact.
That's interesting. Would you have been able to go up to random strangers in England and ask who the queen was?
Probably. I feel like I can talk to strangers at any given time. That's that's kind of what I have to do on the day to day.
Yeah.
If I want to get to know more people in a lab, sometimes you just have to walk around and talk to them.
You would be Jess's personal hero. I also don't care if random strangers think that I'm stupid. I do care if somebody that I'm trying to engage in some sort of friendship, business relationship with thinks I'm stupid. So I too would kind of have no problem with this. I think it would be kind of fun and funny. She ends up doing it. And it's very strange because the answer is Queen Elizabeth at the time. Like I said, the Queen was still alive. But on two separate occasions, two separate men tell her that the Queen is Queen Victoria. And she's like, wait, what? She's not sure if they're trolling her or if they just truly, if they kind of had like a brain fart or if they were time travelers. That's also an option. So I thought that that was really funny. And it made me wonder, do you have any strange interactions that come to mind with strangers or just like a funny story that happened?
I feel like most people would probably say they have a strange interaction with me instead of the other way around. And I was visiting a customer one time, and this person came up to me and was engaging me. And I was working and I thought that this was an opportunity, like a sales situation.
Okay.
And this person was asking me on a date.
Oh my gosh.
And I had no idea. I was like, yeah, I come here all the time. If you ever need help, trying to be come across as helpful and
Yeah.
knowledgeable. And he was like, no, I mean, would you want to come back and hang out with me? And I was like, oh, no.
Were you married at the time?
Yes, this happened last year.
Do you wear your wedding ring on?
I wear a wedding ring all the time.
Interesting.
And so I was with one of my colleagues and she was like, that was the most painful thing I've ever witnessed
Oh,
because I had no idea.
you had no idea that he was trying to pick you up.
And in my mind, like, I'm married. No
Yeah,
one is going to try to pick me up because I'm married, So it didn't
totally.
even cross my mind.
Mhm.
And so, but yeah, my first thought was people probably have more stories about me being a strange interaction for them than the other way around.
That's really funny, especially when you are in sales and your job is to engage with people. That's just
Yeah.
where your mind is.
And it's hard to turn it off,
Yeah.
I mean, even in personal settings and this conversation with you, I'm relating to work because
Yeah.
it's always going on. It's always around me. So in my mind, that was that was a customer interaction.
Oh, well, I don't blame that guy for trying to pick you up, number one. And number two, I hope wherever he is, he has found that someone for him. This reminds me of an interaction I had at Target when my daughter was little. She was still a baby and she was a very chill baby. So I was able to take her out and about. She was great. And this woman comes up to me and she says, "Oh, your daughter is so cute. She's so sweet. Is this your first baby?" So I'm like, "Yeah, she's the best. She's so sweet. I love her so much." And then this woman looks me like dead in the eyes and she says, "Your second one will be extremely difficult." And I was just like, "What? Why? Why are you even putting that energy out there?" And
Yeah.
yeah, while my second one is not as easy as my first, I wouldn't really call him difficult. He's just less chill. He's less chill. So I thought that was very strange. I don't know why she felt compelled to tell me that. Maybe as a warning, maybe mom to mom, she was trying to prepare me, but I really I didn't need her projection of whatever was going on in her life on me. So moms to moms, let's just compliment each other and support each other and not tell each other that the next child is going to be, more difficult or whatever. Okay, next one. Her journey to her year of trying on extroversion is triggered by a contest at a local gym for a year-long gym membership. Jessica is intentionally seeking a place where she can surround herself by people who seem to have their lives together, and she thinks that that's at the gym. But she pushes herself too far to win, and she realizes that she had completely lost perspective and no longer knew where her natural introversion ended and her depression and her loneliness began. What do you think about the gym? Is it a group of people who just have their lives together, in your opinion?
I think that's a really interesting conclusion
Yeah.
to go to the gym and think, oh, these people have their lives together by this one data point of
Yeah.
going to the gym. I personally I hate gyms, like the classic gym. It gives me anxiety. There's people there that seemingly know what they're doing, and they just go up to this machine and they, you know, pump the iron or I don't even know how you know what you do with each of these machines.
Yeah.
So I've never, ever been able to just go to a gym.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't think that just because you go to a gym, you have it all together. You could be going to the gym to escape home
Yeah.
or escape work, or you could be going for any number of reasons to the gym.
It is a way of working on yourself. And that feels positive to me. Whatever your situation is, whether it is just for an escape or whether it's unfortunately the only place that you can go to have a clean bathroom and a clean shower, it feels like somebody's taking steps forward instead of backwards or not at all. I understand what she means, but it is funny to me. I agree with you. I don't think that just having a gym membership and going to the gym means that your life is all together. In fact, I mean, it sounds like people are just trying to get their shit together, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it can show that someone has discipline,
Mm-hmm.
but just because they have discipline of going to the gym doesn't mean that they can make a budget and stick to it and pay their bills on time
Yeah,
or hold a job or anything like that.
that's true.
So that's a really interesting conclusion
Yeah.
to draw from going to a gym.
Right, right. But I think that's what the gym sells, shiny, happy people. And now, gosh, I don't go to gyms anymore. I prefer kind of like a group yoga class, or I have a lot of equipment at home. But I would feel so uncomfortable with the amount of fit influencers that are going on. And if I was trying to use a machine and I was just in the background of somebody else's video, or even just trying to run or do my own thing, I would feel so uncomfortable. So I'm glad I'm not having to deal with all that.
Same. I really, really enjoy going to small bar
Mm.
classes. I got really, really into bar when one of my friends opened a studio. And so I enjoyed doing that because even though you're in a room full of people, no one is looking at you or waiting for you to do something. And it's loud music. To me, I use that as a decompression time. And so I enjoyed that because it wasn't such directed attention, going to a gym.
When people are waiting for you on your machine, it is one of the most uncomfortable situations. I'm constantly second guessing if I'm using this damn machine correctly or if I want to take my time because I'm struggling. But then this person's kind of just sitting there, not even tapping their foot. Nobody has been that rude, but I feel uncomfortable and like I have to hurry up and get off.
Agreed. I do not like people waiting on me. My husband never rushes me to get ready because I cannot stand if I know that someone is waiting on me.
Typically, my husband and children are waiting on me because I make sure that the kids are all taken care of first. And then I'm like, wait, I have to put on my shoes. But, that's life. Okay, last quick topic. During her journey, Jessica has to travel to LA for her father's emergency open heart surgery. He makes it out okay, but she talks a lot about his nurse and how his nurse's extroversion was extremely helpful during that really difficult time. She writes that the nurse's warmth, willingness to chat, and to be disarmingly open with perfect strangers has made this hellish experience bearable. She has now seen, quote, firsthand how talking and being open through tense moments can transform them, how the right stranger can be your personal hero. I loved that quote. And I wondered, do you have any good stranger personal hero stories?
I recently had to go to the doctor like very regularly for blood work and testing
Mm-hmm.
while we were working through some things. And I happened to have the same nurse every time that was drawing my blood. And she was always singing and remembered me.
Oh.
And it really touched me that she remembered me because I think in a time where going to the doctor can be like a conveyor belt situation where they just are moving people through, the fact that they remembered me and tried to comfort me made me feel better about the situation and what was going on.
It made you feel important and like you weren't just a number,
Yes.
but you were a real person.
Yes. And I was a person that they were going through this with.
That's really lovely. My story involves nurses as well. When I was in labor with my daughter, it was a very long labor. Yeah, I ended up having a C-section, but I didn't realize the nurses are the ones that are really in there with you, holding your hand, encouraging you. And the head nurse in the labor and delivery department was in there with me because we were trying to make a vaginal birth work. It's what I wanted. My daughter was kind of profile. So at a certain point, she just wouldn't fit anymore. And I'm really lucky that it wasn't an emergency situation. I was able to really make the decision myself to have a C-section. I was just so exhausted at that point. And my OB was like, I don't think it's happening. If you continue to push, she could get stuck. And that would be really, really dangerous. I don't remember her name, but I remember her face. And I remember her looking at me and working with me and being so encouraging to try to help me have the type of birth that I wanted. And in the end, it was okay. My daughter was born healthy. I was okay. That's really the only result that I wanted at the end of the day. But I think nurses are such special people. And when you get one with an incredible bedside manner, most of the time, these people are in our lives when we're going through something difficult. Even a joyous thing like a birth is not a walk in the park by any means.
Yeah.
So to have that person there, they don't know you. They've never met you before, potentially in your situation. At the
Right.
very first time, she had never met you. And I love those small interactions where there's nothing expected after. It's just about that moment, being present, being connected with another human being on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really lovely. This whole section, really, this quote encourages me to be that positive stranger in other people's lives, no matter what it is, if it's helping somebody at a grocery store or letting somebody go in front of me on the freeway.
Yep.
Just be a positive force in other people's lives and not a negative one.
Try to do the next right thing. That's
Yeah.
kind of something that I have been telling myself is, if you just try to do the next right thing, then you can maybe be that person to someone. You never know.
You never know what somebody's going through.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. If you let someone in front of you in traffic, they could be having the worst day, and then you just let them over in traffic. And in Houston, that's a huge deal.
In LA, it's a huge deal too. Oi, oi. So I really like that though. Just try to do the next right thing. That's really beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some deeper discussion topics. So this book is all about pushing yourself past your own limitations. Jess writes, I'd been using my introvert label as an excuse to hide from the world. Jessica realizes that she's lonely. She wins this Midnight Oil Award at work for the person who sells their soul for the jobs, basically what her coworkers tell her. And in doing so, she actually feels like a failure. She writes, failure because I was so not interested in my job or what I was doing with my life. Failure to be the sort of person I admired. And she continues, some people are great at talking to strangers, building new relationships, and making friends at parties. I'm really good at other things like loitering palely in dark doorways, disappearing into couch corners, leaving early, feigning sleep on public transportation. I really wanted to include that because this book really is laugh out loud funny. She is an extremely witty writer. It was one of the reasons why I missed her so much when she was gone. So what do you think sparks change in people?
I don't feel that you can spark change in other people. I think that in your own mind and in your own desire, you have to want to change and have something different. You may hit some sort of rock bottom or have an eye-opening experience, or a friend may point something out to you that's eye-opening, but the true change is not going to come unless you want it yourself. I don't know in the book if she talks about something that truly happened that made her want to be an extrovert. Maybe it was this award that was given to her, and she then decides, I don't want this to be my only identity.
Yeah, it is one of the catalysts, that plus going for this free membership at the gym when she realizes what she does to herself. Basically, there's a weight loss challenge as well as a consecutive days going to the gym challenge. And she ends up in a sauna wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants and socks, trying to sweat out this weight so that she can win. That's when she kind of has her epiphany. And she's like, what am I doing? Why am I trying so hard to win this thing? Because I feel like it'll surround me with shiny, happy people instead of getting to the root of the problem, which is I'm lonely and I'm really bad at making friends and connecting with other people. And that's what I need to be working on. It was kind of both. And I know that I said this before, but I just really applaud her for recognizing this problem, getting to the root of the issue, and then becoming responsible for her own happiness. Because you have to be responsible for your own happiness. You cannot rely on other people to give that to you if you're not willing to do the work to give it to yourself.
Agreed.
I really think that's how you maintain your sanity in this life too. Because if you are looking for external validation and external happiness from everywhere but inside, you're always going to come up short. People are always going to disappoint you. It's just human nature. Life is tough for each of us as it is, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, you can't expect someone else to know exactly what you need at any given time either. So only you can take care of yourself and not create your own happiness, but take care of your own well-being.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't expect to be happy all the time, but you need to be self-aware and know yourself well enough to know when you need to calibrate, make a change.
I completely agree with you. I think just checking in with yourself and asking yourself, am I doing things that are setting myself up for a better life or a happier life or the type of life that I want to live? Or am I staying in this cycle of bad habits that isn't going to serve me much longer or isn't serving me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of these awards that she has, do you guys do awards at your job? It reminds me of the Dundies from The Office.
We do awards like that.
Oh my God, what have you won?
Sales rep of the year.
Oh, that's just so normal. I mean, congratulations. I'm very proud of you. But come on, give me something like whitest sneakers or still engaged or something, you know?
Funny, my company, they used to do awards like that, but people got offended. So they couldn't do. I mean, it's pretty offensive. Like Michael Scott.
Well, the office is definitely offensive on purpose.
So my company does MVP, up and comer. They do awards that have very positive light, and whoever is presenting the award will talk about the person a little bit, and there's some suspense to it, but it's not anything that would embarrass anyone and be truly fun.
Ah, darn. Okay, so Jessica is starting to go on this journey. And I love this quote. She writes, I know that deep down, what scares you owns you. And I didn't want to be owned by my fear anymore.
That's deep.
Yeah, it is deep. And while it seems like such a simple motto for life, it's not easy. Jessica's fear seemed to be keeping her from being able to connect with other people, to make friends. It keeps her from living this extroverted life that she wants to try on for a little while to see what happens, see if she can be happier. Do you have a fear that holds you back, or has there been a time in your life when you've had to actively just be aware of when a fear could be controlling you or controlling your life?
I was dating someone before I met my husband, and it was pretty toxic relationship. I remember consciously thinking, going into my relationship with my husband, consciously making the decision that I'm not going to let past negative experiences influence my relationship with this person, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I assume and predict that my husband is going to make a mistake or my boyfriend is going to do something that I disapprove of, then I'm essentially looking for him to make a mistake.
And I think you see what you're looking for.
Exactly. You're going to make something a problem. In my relationship with my husband when we were dating, even now when we're married, I try not to have the thought that he's going to do something wrong or do something that will upset me, because if I have those thoughts, it always happens.
And if you had let your past toxic relationship color your new one with your now husband, boyfriend at the time, you would have been setting him up to fail because you would have been viewing him through the lens of your past relationship and wrongly comparing him to your past partner.
Yep.
Okay. And look, there are times where people just legitimately have red flags and you have to be aware of those and you need to address them.
Agreed.
But I know what you mean in this case. So then how did you keep yourself from bringing your past relationship into your next one? How are you able to view your husband as he was instead of bringing your past hurt and baggage into the relationship? Because that can be really hard to do.
For me personally, I have a few close confidants that I trust to talk through these things with. They kind of validate me in saying those thoughts they're negative. Don't you look at it from this angle? And I've found that over the years, my process is talking through things. And if I say it out in the open and say it out of my mouth into the universe, I find out that it does sound ridiculous, right? And when it comes to my husband, if I say out loud, oh, my husband is trying to do something to wrong me, when I say that, I know that of course, that's a ridiculous thought, right? So I think processing things out loud, I've learned that that's how I get through difficult times.
Mm. That's really great that you've learned that about yourself and you've found something that works. I feel like for me, I'm just going to imagine like a little Lizzie McGuire cartoon version of myself in my head, like karate chopping the negative thought away. I'm going to see if that works. I'm going to try that for a little while, see if that works. Because when I speak my thoughts out loud, it feels more validating to me. If I say it to my husband or a good friend and they're like, that's ridiculous, you're ridiculous, that like little monster thought inside my head is like, no, I'm not. Ha ha ha. So I'm just going to fight it physically with my cartoon. And I'll keep you posted because I don't want my fear to own me. I mean, that's just the truth. I would rather go through life thinking good things are going to happen and being positive and viewing it like a glass half full situation and maybe get disappointed every once in a while than go through life always expecting something bad to happen. And then when 99% of the time it doesn't, tension in my body and the weight of the stress, I'm just choosing a different path. It's been something that they've always tried to do, but I'm really trying to take the steps now toward implementing it to focus on the good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get back to Jess. Her brother reaches out to her and just straight up asks her, are you happy? And I was wondering, when is the last time that somebody has asked you that, or you've asked yourself that? Am I happy?
I guess a couple years ago, my husband asked me if I was truly happy in my job because I was taking a lot of my work home. And I think I kind of started to realize that maybe my previous job wasn't fulfilling anymore. And so, even though it was a really long process, I ended up starting the process of looking for another job. And I think that my husband asking it the way that he did opened my eyes to, because you get into the going through the motions every day, wake up, go to work, come home. You don't think to ask yourself things like that. So it helps when someone else points it out to you.
And I think it can be scary because sometimes it does feel like we're just trying to survive. And then when you ask yourself, am I happy? Then when you have the answer to that, you have to say, well, why not?
Right.
And sometimes these things feel out of your control to change. And so for me personally, once I was able to let go of the things that I couldn't change and look inward and stay present and feel grateful for the things that I have, I was able to cultivate more happiness for myself. It was getting out of that the grass is always greener mentality and saying, look, this is the lawn that I'm on. And so how do I appreciate it and not get so caught up in what other people are doing?
Mm-hmm.
Also, change can be really scary.
Yeah, can I do it? Am I going to make a change and fail? And I think that I just try to not worry if I'm going to fail because I probably will. I'm human. I'm going to fail at something. And same thing with my husband. He was in a situation with a job recently and he wanted to change industries and all of that. And I just told him, you may change jobs and not like it. And that's okay. You have to be okay with making a decision, own your decision, and say, hey, I made this decision and it wasn't the right decision, or I didn't like my choice, and then move on from it. You can't just get hung up.
We're all constantly evolving. And so I think checking in with the happiness is also just checking in and kind of being like, who am I now? Am I still doing things that serve the new me and the person that I'm trying to be? Or am I caught in this cycle of something that I don't want to be in anymore?
Yeah, I think you should always be doing some sort of self-assessment, reflection. Every once in a while, reflect on what you've been doing and how you could do it better or different in personal and in work. You have an annual review every year at work. You should be doing things like that in your personal to make sure, am I serving my spouse? Am I being a good friend? Am I being a good parent? Nobody's perfect, so there's always room for some sort of change, right?
Yeah. I think it's so important to let go of that idea of perfection. And what I really am realizing is that so much of life is a mindset. So much of it is how you choose, purposefully choose to see the world. Bad things happen to good people all the
Every
time.
day.
But it is up to you how you react. It's one thing that my dad really instilled in me. It's not the action, it's the reaction.
Yeah.
My dad was like, you cannot control what happens to you, but you can
How you
control
react to it.
how you react to it and how much you let it affect you. Sometimes you need help,
Sure.
therapy, medicine, and it is a real chemical issue sometimes.
Yeah.
If this really is our one chance, this is our one life, then I think we owe it to ourselves to try to live our happiest lives as often as possible.
Like every decision that you make has a consequence. And it can be positive or negative, but you can't be upset that there is a consequence, right? So I agree 100%. I think that things are not always going to go your way and they're not going to go as you want them to. And you may have an idea in your head of what it would be like. And just because it doesn't fit in that box doesn't mean that you let it slow you down or ruin your situation or become your identity. You don't want certain negative experiences or something to become your identity. I know that bad things happen and that happens to people, but you have to try to work through things.
Well, and even in this simple way, just as Jess said, she wanted to stop using her self-described introvert label to hide from the world. Jessica is just trying to become more extroverted. She's just trying to connect with more people, but it feels very applicable to so many parts of our lives. So let's get back to her. She talks about this stint in Beijing as a reporter, and she has to go live on air and she has terrible stage fright while she's on air. She literally blacks out and her producer in her ear is telling her what a terrible job she's doing the entire time, which doesn't help. And she writes, I vowed to never put myself in the spotlight again. This is healthy, I told myself. We mature and we realize we cannot be all the things we had hoped we could be. This speaks to what you were just talking about with consequences. Jessica wanted to put herself out there. She wanted to be a journalist. She ended up having a bad experience. And the consequence that she's had to live with since the incident is feeling like she can't put herself out there, feeling like she isn't worth listening to, which I think might be a core part of it. And so, even though it was by no means her fault that this person was her producer and just sounds like a horrible person, to be honest, she
Right.
has to decide if she's going to let this experience paint the rest of her life, limit her the rest of her life, diminish her, or if she can find it within herself to overcome it. When you have anything that happens to you that's traumatizing, it sucks because the trauma is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to work through it. You also spoke earlier about self sabotage, and Jess writes about that as well. She signs up to do this thing called The Moth, where it's a podcast, but it's also a live event where people gather in a theater to tell a story. And Jess puts off writing her story and practicing it until almost the 11th hour. She writes, failure is more embarrassing if you try.
Mm-hmm. Again, a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell yourself that you're not going to be
Yeah.
successful, who's going to cheer for you to be successful? I think self-sabotaging,
It's a protection, isn't it? It's a defense mechanism.
it's a defense mechanism that I feel really bad saying this, but I feel like it's a cop out because if you do something and you don't do it to the best of your ability so that you can say, "Oh, I didn't try." I just don't feel like that is a good excuse for what happened, right? My parents raised me the way that they raised me was they always told me in school they didn't care if I made an A, B, or C as long as I did the best that I could. If I did something and got a B or a C, and they would say, "Well, did you try your hardest? Did you study your hardest?" If I said no, then that is the consequence for your behavior,
Yeah.
right? But if I did try really, really hard and English just wasn't my best subject, well, you're not going to be the best at everything. You did the best that you could. You gave your best that you could. So I think that self-sabotage is definitely a mindset and a defense mechanism that people should be conscious that they're doing.
Yeah. And it's really interesting what you said, how your parents raised you, because that's really all the parenting talk these days is really all about supporting the work and the journey as opposed to supporting the outcome. I feel like my parents were very outcome based. I got rewarded if I got hits during softball, if I scored runs. It wasn't necessarily like, you know what, we saw you trying your best. We're still going to take you to the bookstore and get a book. That was always what I wanted. I wanted to buy Sweet Valley High books whenever I got hits in softball. I think you're right. I think rewarding the effort instead of the outcome is such a better way to set your children or yourself up for not letting failure be this horrible, crashing, depleting thing. Because we're all going to fail, and you're going to fail many times on your way to success. And it's not about how many times you fall off the horse. It's about how many times you get back on, right?
And my parents couldn't reward me for sporting successes because I have no athletic ability.
Okay, excuse me. What belt did you make it to in karate?
Brown, but
That's pretty dang good, is it not?
that's not athletic as like, well, it is athletic. I take that
Don't
back.
discredit yourself. Don't discredit yourself. I applaud your parents for being so ahead of the curve.
It's just trial and error, I'm sure.
Yes. Isn't that life though? Trial and error. Okay. So I wanted to know, what's the scariest thing that you've ever tried? Jess tries improv and stand-up comedy because they scare her so much. So what's the scariest thing you've ever tried?
Karaoke.
Ooh, that's good.
I didn't even do it by myself because that's too much direct attention
Mhm.
and I hated it. I did it in like a group of girls. We sang Spice Girls and I was just like, this is my nightmare. I never want to do this again.
But you survived, didn't you?
But yeah, I remember doing it and I wasn't going to do it. And all the other female colleagues were getting up there. And I thought, no, I'll videotape you guys. And they wanted me up there. So, and one of my friends told me recently, one of my old colleagues was like, I thought you loved karaoke.
How funny.
And I said, I hate the idea. I like for other people to enjoy. That is not my cup of tea.
I'm really proud of you for trying, though. That's good.
I want to know what yours is, though.
You know, mine is actually the podcast. This whole thing has been really scary. First off, it was really scary to reach out to my wonderful friends and ask them for their time and for their vulnerability and for their openness and for them to allow me to put that out there where people will be able to hear what we're talking about. And then I just want to do my best to celebrate and do right by the women whose memoirs that I'm reading. No memoir is perfect. A lot of the ones that I'm reading are pretty close, but when people sit down to write about their lives and the things that they've learned and their journeys and the things that they've been through, I just think that's a really beautiful, sacred process. And so the podcast is about celebrating that, and it's not about judgment. And I have been so delighted by the amount of women in my life who are showing up and supporting me. And you are the very first one to do that. So thank you. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome.
I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm really excited just to keep reading memoirs and talking about them with my friends. It's been really fun. So, and what do they say? If you can turn something fun or your passion into a job,
You'll
then
never work a day in your life.
there you go. There you go. Okay. So Jess attends a workshop geared towards teaching people how to make better connections. She and her exercise partner basically just tell each other their most embarrassing secrets. That's what they're supposed to do. And it feels really good to her. It feels like they're connecting, but it's in a vacuum. It's not translatable to real life. She and this guy connect, and then they, after class, try to further their relationship. They're like, let's exchange emails, let's be friends. When you are extremely vulnerable with someone, when you get past all the small talk straight into deep talk, you do connect on a different level. But then they realized that he hadn't even told his wife that he was doing a class like this because he was too embarrassed to say, oh, I need to learn how to connect with people, which makes me sad, especially in today's age with social media and texting. We aren't really learning those social skills anymore. And it is okay to sign up for a class like this and to work on these things. So that bummed me out that he felt that way. But then that also obviously put an end to their relationship, because how was he going to say that he met Jessica if he wasn't willing to tell his wife that he took a class about connecting with people, you know? So yeah, that was kind of a bummer because she was so excited to make this great friend and then realized, oh, well, this actually can't go anywhere. Later in the book, she tries improv and she writes, psychologists say that improv classes can help alleviate social anxiety and stress. The exercises encourage you to think quickly on your feet, speak in front of others, and become less obsessed with perfectionism. There's even an improv for anxiety class at the famous Second City Comedy Club in Chicago, which, side note, I went to Second City and it was amazing. Most incredible improv show ever. Okay, back to Jessica. It makes so much sense to me because spending a few hours a week in a safe space made the entire world seem kinder and more manageable. Mistakes were so easily forgiven. No one ever seemed to get annoyed when I froze. Have you ever done improv?
I've never done improv, but we have to do role playing at work, and I hate it.
Oh, tell me more.
I hate it because I'm like, this is not how I would behave in real life. These scenarios are not real, they're fake.
Okay, but when you say that they're fake, what do you mean? Like, are they trying to expose you to a worst case scenario so that when you get something tamer, you're able to handle it?
Maybe something like that, or think in a different way than you would normally handle a situation. And in my opinion, the person who is like driving the class or something always has an idea of where they want it to go. So it's not true improv.
That makes sense. They are trying to get to some sort of objective.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I just have never had any experience with true improv.
Well, I've been to a couple of improv shows and I took 2 weeks of improv at USC before I dropped the class because I was too afraid.
Oh,
Improv is really hard for me because there is no right answer. Now I think I'd be so much more open to it. And I think I would really relish in that the idea that there is no right answer and that you can't fail because you can't succeed. Obviously, when you are an improv troupe, your goal, I think, is to make people laugh. So maybe there's sort of that burden.
right.
The phrase yes and is a huge part of
Mm.
improv. The concept is basically just about being generous with your play and spirit and going with what is given to you and expanding on it. Play. That's what you're doing in improv.
Yeah.
You're just playing. And yeah, and she writes about how delighted she is just to play again because when you grow up, playtime is over and everything becomes goal oriented.
Yeah, or work.
So she writes, this isn't only about performance, it's about spontaneity, making it up as you go along, surrounded by other people. You can't plan for what's going to happen next. You have to react, but you're not sure how. And you often have no control over whom you're interacting with and what nonsense they're going to throw at you. You know, like real life.
So deep.
Girl, I was like, this is like a mic drop moment. I'm telling you, I love this book. When she kind of put it like that, I was like, yeah, we're all improving in our lives every damn day.
Every day.
So, yeah, it's just about like giving yourself the permission and the freedom and not viewing it as failing or succeeding, but just being.
Doing. Yeah.
Okay, so Misty, the next time I come into town or if you come out to LA, would you ever do an improv class with me?
Maybe.
I will like take that maybe right now and I will run with it.
Maybe. Yeah.
You're not saying no. We'll see. We'll get you out to LA first and then I'll surprise you. Be like, we're going to dinner. Surprise. We're going to improv class. So after improv, Jess is feeling so great. Things are clicking. So then she tries stand-up comedy and she writes, it's my worst nightmare. But because it was the biggest fear I could imagine pulling off, it also felt like the most important. It combines pretty much all of my shintrovert fears into one gruesome event. And it feels like the ultimate chance to see whether I am or am not always going to be that person afraid and waiting in the shadows. Good for her, man. I really just applaud this idea of challenging yourself, breaking yourself out of the boundaries that you put on yourself, breaking out of your comfort zone, seeing what you're capable of.
And just trying it.
That's right.
And you know what my husband says? When I was changing jobs, I said, what if I hate it? And you know what he said to me? What if you love it? And I was like, why did I not even think of that? Why is it we think you're going to try something and hate it versus try something and love it? So I always try to remind myself of that.
I love that. That's really good. It's another really simple way just to flip that thought in your head. Instead of going straight to the negative or to the bad place, flip it, go to the good place. Okay, so Jessica says that stand-up comedy is her Everest. Do you have an Everest? Do you think something that just feels like really impossible for you to try? Like, it would just be too scary, too much? I know you kind of talked about karaoke, but you did that. So you already climbed that mountain.
I don't know that opportunity would present itself to do this, but I wish that I had the bravery to do is to take a study abroad or a job abroad, live
Mm.
outside of my comfort zone, travel for work. So I get to go to these cool places, all the while knowing that I get to go home to my safe space. And I think that Everest would be moving away. Like you moved to California, that was mind blowing for me because you left everything that you've known at home. And now look at you. You have this beautiful life that you've created. And what if it's great?
Yeah. Well, I hope you do get the opportunity to at least have an extended vacation somewhere and be able to really immerse yourself in whatever city or culture that you get to. I think that would be lovely. I think it's great when people go to different places and see how big the world is and how
Yeah.
people exist so differently than we do.
And live differently. Yeah. I think that it would be very eye-opening and humbling
Yeah.
and just think it would be the ultimate experience to do something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's not too late. You're still very young. The opportunity is out there. I think the right thing's going to come your way and you're going to be ready to grab onto it.
We'll see.
I think my personal Everest might be stand up comedy as well. That just terrifies me because there is sort of an end result, an objective. Like you really do have to make people laugh or
Hmm.
else
You're just
you
talking to them.
you're just talking to them. I don't know if I'll ever work up the guts to do it, but maybe. Okay. Jessica writes that 75% of the public fear public speaking more than death. And sociobiologists trace this fear way back to our ancestors. Singling yourself out from a group is inviting them to attack you. Do you have public speaking fears?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you have to do it in school. I had to do it in college. You have to do it at work. It's not my favorite thing to do. I find my courage to do it by just doing it. I try not to obsess about what's going to happen or just be as prepared as you can be. But being in front of people is like I physically sweat. It makes me so nervous.
Oh my gosh, me too. Like my throat tightens, my stomach churns. It is something that in life you just have to do. And so you're right. Sometimes the only way to build up the confidence or courage to do something is just to not and then just do it anyways.
Rip the band-aid.
Now I want to know, do you have to build up your confidence to make a sale, to attempt to make a sale? Because that to me, that would be really daunting.
When you first start doing anything, you have to build up your courage. I've never talked about this product, whatever it may be, right? The more you talk about things and honestly, the more you get to know your customers, you find out that they're just trying to get by. They're just looking for the most helpful person. They may not have all the answers. I think you find that most people are in the same boat as you are. And so I don't have a hard time working up the courage now, but it was intimidating when I first started because what if I said something wrong and they bought from someone else because of me?
Like a level of preparedness also gives you confidence once you know about the product that you're talking about. And that's really when it comes to like auditions for me, or even the first day on set, I always get so nervous. The first scene, no matter how many times I've been on set, no matter how many first days I have, they all kind of feel the same in my body. But I just am prepared. I know the lines back and forth. I know the character. I know I've done my homework. I've done the work. And with auditions, I think one thing that really helps me is when I realize that the person casting wants me to get the job because they're trying to find the actor for the role. Mindset. But yeah, I don't think that there's a magic pill for confidence. I think sometimes you just have to do the damn thing.
Remember that movie when we were growing up and the girl talked about there's two types of people that get into the pool, the people that dip their toes in and then the ones that just cannonball right in?
What movie was that?
Superstar.
Oh, that's such a good one. That's such a good one. Gosh, the cannonballers are the ones who dip their
And
toes.
I think you can talk yourself out of just about anything.
The very first time you do anything is scary because you don't know what to expect. But then once you can sort of have expectations, and of course, still ebb
Right.
and flow because not every situation is exactly the same, at least you can have some idea of what to expect. It's helpful. at least for me. I have fear of the unknown. So if I can at least give myself some sort of guideline, something to expect, it helps me a lot.
It reminds me of the first time I ever got a shot and remembered it, like as a child. I remember my parents, they wanted me to take allergy shots and we did all the testing and everything. And then it came time, you go get your shot in your arm. They give it to you in your arm. And I remember being in this room. I will never forget it. And I'm like, no, we can't do it. I kept like taking my arm away or no, I'm not ready or something. And then I don't know, 10, 20 minutes later, she gives me the shot and I'm like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All this buildup for nothing.
You had built it up in your head because when you don't have anything to compare it to, your mind goes worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So Jessica writes that self-confidence doesn't find us. We have to push ourselves to do something hard and live through it, and then confidence will eventually follow. I'd faked confidence by doing stand-up, and by doing so, created it, which really just, I think, speaks to exactly what you were talking about. You just fake it till you make it sometimes.
Preach.
Okay, so now I want to talk to you about vocal and physical warm ups because this is something that Jessica learns to do to set herself up to succeed in these public speaking challenges and specifically before her moth performance. And so she reaches out to a vocal coach. And the first thing that the vocal coach tells her is that Jessica is not important. She's not the center of the universe, which is really interesting because it seems really harsh. But sometimes it's nice to have that reminder that the world doesn't revolve around you, that other people are going about living their lives and they are not focused on you at all. And I think this was something that Jessica very much needed to hear because she had put all this pressure on herself when really she's just a moment in other people's lives. The other thing that the vocal coach is very helpful for is giving Jessica tools to open up her body, especially when she's combating self-doubt and nerves. And this is something that I learned in acting school. As actors, our bodies are our instrument. They are the vessel through which we tell the story, create the character. And so throughout the 4 years at USC, we had different vocal coaches, different movement coaches who taught us ways to loosen and relax our bodies so that we could access whatever we needed to as our characters. The biggest thing was just loosening everything up, loosening up the vocal cords, loosening up your core, loosening up your body so that you could move how you needed to move, you could speak how you needed to speak. Wanted to show you one of our vocal exercises. They can feel very silly, but they're a tool of empowerment because in my experience, when I've done the vocal and physical warm-ups before a role, I personally have an easier time accessing whatever I need to access. Okay, so I want to show you one. What you do is you clasp both hands together and create an upside down V where your hands are a few inches away from your mouth. And then you're just going to shake your hands. And the whole point of this is to loosen up that jaw muscle, which is where a lot of us, I really do, I hold a lot of tension in my jaw. So this is just a really good way to loosen your jaw. Okay, ready? Try it. You can do it.
You just go,
So it's like so silly and you feel really silly. Oh my God, your dog is probably like, what the hell, mom? But yeah, you sort of feel silly doing it, but then you feel better when you're done and nobody has to watch you do this. We all had to do this in front of each other in theater school, but really helps me prepare for the work that I need to do. And it really helped Jessica because she was able to counteract what the nerves were doing to her body.
People warm up and do exercises and stretches before any major athletic event too. Even professionals, professional basketball, football players, they have to stretch and do jumping jacks and things like that to loosen up. And, sometimes shaking out nerves and stuff helps to get you going and get you psyched. People talk about getting psyched before a game or pumped before a game, listening to music or whatever that may be.
Yeah. Or before a meeting, even people play their pump up music, things that make them feel like they can take on the world. I think it's really important to find what works for you. But I just want to encourage people to seek out vocal and physical warm ups because you never know. That could be the key. She also writes about physical ways that you can trick your body into having confidence. One of those ways is taking up space. I think
Mm.
people refer to it as the Superman pose or the Superwoman pose.
Mhm.
You have a wide stance with your hands on your hips and your chest up. And there is something physically that happens in my body when I do something like this.
Yeah.
There are some really great ways to help set yourself up for success.
Especially the one you just showed me.
Exactly, exactly. I didn't even show you the silliest ones. There are lots of great videos out there, I'm sure, that people can find. Okay, so throughout the book, Jess talks a lot about mentors, and I want to touch on a few of them. So she talks with the director of psychotherapy and emotion research lab at Boston U, who regularly coaches people through their fears of interacting with others. This guy was telling her that face to face interactions are a lost skill. Funny because when we were sort of talking about technological stuff yesterday, and I said, well, don't you have to Zoom a lot? And you were like, no, I pick up the phone. And I thought that that was so interesting. I love that you still call people on the phone.
I just feel like the internet is so awkward. And I feel like people lose the ability to talk when it's on the internet. And
Mhm.
so have found that simply picking up the phone and calling people the old fashioned way is the easiest thing for me. And then in turn, once I get someone on the phone, I literally within minutes will offer to come and see them in person
Mm.
because we're losing that person to person connection.
Mhm.
And we're going the way of AI and not needing human interaction to do most things. And I don't want to lose that. I love face to face human interaction.
I think as a society, we need human
We
interaction.
need
We need each other.
we need people. We need others. We're meant, yeah,
Connection.
we're made to be social.
Yeah. And I think a big thing that's missing during texts and emails is tone. And I know that emojis help, but hearing somebody say something in their voice, I use the audio message feature on my phone a lot more often than I text now because most of the time I'm just feeling chatty and it's really hard to like text. I'm not a super fast texter and my thumbs hurt, but also because I want the tone of my
Mhm.
voice to come across so that there's no misinterpreting what I'm saying or how I'm saying it.
Mhm.
We read each other's cues. There's a whole art of body
Yes.
language that you just miss when you're not having a face to face conversation.
Yes.
I think really important conversations should definitely, at the very least, happen on the phone. But if you
Yes.
can, face to face or Zoom to Zoom, so that you can look that person in the eyes when you're trying to communicate
Yeah,
this
I
thing.
agree. It's a lost art.
We had one message machine for your
Yeah.
entire family, and everybody heard those messages. And if you wanted to call your friend, you probably had to speak to their parents
You
first.
had to ask for them on the phone. That was scary.
It was scary sometimes, yeah.
They don't know what it's like to wait by the phone to ring to talk to someone.
All right. So, another mentor that she had was a professor of behavioral science at the Chicago Booth School of Business. And he did a study that discovered that when people talk to strangers during their commute, it makes them happier. He writes, we polled people and asked, what percentage of people do you think would be willing to talk to you if you talked to them first? People on trains thought 42% and buses thought 43%, but the number was actually almost 100%. In reality, we're all pretty interested in connecting with each other.
You know what I've found in my line of work after almost like 15 years is that in our industry, we do a lot of driving. And so I make it a point when I'm driving to intentionally call someone. Instead of sending a text, how are you? You call someone and ask them, how are you doing? What's going on? I call it windshield time. I look forward to my windshield time because I get to catch up with my friends or my family.
I really love that. And while Jessica's book is more about connecting with strangers so she can make more friends and have more connections in the world, your windshield time is such a wonderful reminder that we have to spend time on the relationships that we do have too. And like you said, if you have time to pick up the phone, call someone, hear their voice instead of just sending them a text, that's great. But I also think that sending somebody that thinking of you text is just a really nice way to let people know that they're on your mind
Hmm.
and they're in your heart because we're all so busy and we can lose track of reaching out to one another. Once somebody is your friend, you still have to put in the work and energy into that relationship in order for it to continue to grow. And so I really love hearing about your windshield time because my windshield time is mostly listening to audiobooks and other podcasts, but I should call my friends and my family, especially when I know that I have some dedicated alone time because I don't have much dedicated alone time these days. This same mentor tells Jess that the way to connect with people is to disclose info about yourself and ask deeper questions. Get past small talk and the weather. Jess relays a story where she engages in deep talk, as she calls it, with a stranger on a train. And at the end of the trip, he says, "What a nice surprise meeting you tonight. There was nothing romantic about it. It was just a genuine connection, just helped pass the time better." I really thought that that was cool. I love that he told her that. It was a really nice surprise meeting you. She talks about how another one of her teachers says that the fear of being intrusive is hugely exaggerated. What we should actually fear is being boring and dying having never connected to anyone. Jess writes, the older we get, the easier talking to strangers will become. With age, we grow more confident and less involved in what other people think of us.
I think it's disarming too if you speak to someone and you share something that might be vulnerable or a little more personal. It makes them feel like, oh, okay, this person is sharing something a little bit deeper with me. Maybe I can engage with them on a deeper level. I think that sometimes people are scared to get vulnerable because they think that
it'll be weaponized against them,
or they just think it's embarrassing. If you share things, most of the time people are going to share something back and engage more.
Yeah. It's about you opening that door and not asking somebody else to open it.
Right.
Putting yourself out there first. Which, to bring it back to Jessica, is exactly what she has figured out and exactly what she's trying to do. By learning all these tools, talking with all these people, trying out all these things, she's taking responsibility for making these connections and she's taking control of creating new friendships. And she writes about the importance of friendships / non-romantic relationships. She writes, friends listen to you, laugh with you, give you advice, encourage you, inspire you, fill your life with joy. And we crave that feeling of this person gets me more than I get myself. At one point, she tries a friend dating app, which I thought was really interesting. Would you ever try a friend dating app?
I mean, I guess I would try it.
To me, there's like a burden when you meet somebody in an app. It's kind of like, I am looking to take our relationship to a deeper level in a way where if you just meet somebody organically, there's no expectations and it's up to both of you working in parallel to make that relationship deeper. But I could see how if somebody works solo a lot, like Jess, she's a freelance journalist. So she doesn't have a work environment that she gets to go and meet friends. She's moved to a completely new city. So she doesn't have school friends or friends that she grew up with. She does have to actively seek out friendship. And because she's an introvert, she's not going to go up to some random girl at the gym and say hi. So I think that this really works for her. She does end up making a great friend from it eventually. But the woman that she does connect with, both of them are busy. And so there's a lot of like, hurry up and wait. We both really feel like we could be good friends, but the timing is a little off. She also writes that it can be really awkward and disheartening because she writes, in romance, potential suitors can pretend you have no chemistry or that you weren't their type. But because we can have as many friends as we want, being rejected as a friend is brutal. The message is loud and clear. I genuinely do not like being around you. So yeah, when you put yourself out there like that, when you're expecting a friendship, it's hard. And the thing about friendships is that they evolve and you have those awesome moments where you discover things about each other that make you go, hey, we connect. Like that's really cool. But when you go to a coffee shop and you're just kind of like, all right, what are your interests? I have friends who have completely different interests than me, but we connect on the things that are important, like our values and the way that we want to see the world. And that's hard to just dissect down in an interview-ish setting.
When I was growing up, my mom told me that not everybody was going to like me. So that
again, your mom with the gems, man, like just so that's so smart though, because it's true. People will not like you for like the most stupid reasons too.
They don't have to. They don't have to be your friend. They don't have to invite you to their birthday party or whatever. But I think that you don't want to have to force someone to be interested in you, or you don't want to force someone to want to spend time with you.
Yeah. So it's interesting. She writes that studies say it takes 6 to 8 meetings before someone feels like a friend. She also writes that other research says it's about 50 hours of time with someone before you consider them a casual friend, and 90 hours before they're like a friend when it becomes easy.
Wow.
Yeah. And it makes sense because you have that history to build on. It's, that moment where you have the inside joke or you can be like, oh my gosh, remember when that happened?
Right.
So Jessica goes on this journey, and in the end, she's still an introvert, but she's an introvert who can extrovert when she needs to or wants to. And that's a really important distinction. She writes, finding my voice and challenging myself to do intimidating things made me feel more confident. This is priceless in a world that can be scary, maddening, and unfair. When there are fewer things to be scared of and fewer things that can control us, this can only be a good thing. It was more than I could have ever hoped for when I started. I feel more in control of my life because I can extrovert. I can socialize in a room full of people I don't know. I can disrupt an entire theater row if I need to pee. I can befriend someone new. I'm beginning to think I'm slowly becoming less of a shy introvert and ever so slightly more of a gregarious introvert, a grintrovert.
It sounds like a good book.
It's a great book. Okay, there are a few more quotes that I want to read to you and get your thoughts.
Okay.
She writes, it's so hard to imagine people we deem successful as vulnerable.
I think we forget that everybody deals with issues. And you have to remember, these are just people too.
Yeah. I think vulnerability is beautiful. I think it's something to admire in someone. Wait, vulnerable doesn't mean weakness.
Right.
Vulnerability does not equate weakness.
No.
Vulnerability to me is just a willingness to be open and to look for connections with other people and to admit mistakes and take ownership.
Right.
Okay, so the last quote is, I am struck by how saying things out loud, declaring them to people makes them seem more real. How these once in a lifetime occasions come and then they go. How I do not want to regret not doing the thing, whatever the thing may be, anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think we take for granted the importance of actually telling someone that you love them or telling someone that you care about them or that you had a good time, spending time with them.
Saying that you love someone out loud, like not being afraid to put words to a feeling.
Yeah.
Making sure people know how much they mean to you and what their worth is in your life, I think is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful quote.
I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you how much I love you and how I feel so grateful for you. And thank you so much for talking about this book with me today. This book will always have a special place in my heart. And I want to leave you all with one last quote from Jessica. She writes, a big part of this year was the desire to be brave enough to do something that felt so contradicting to the kind of person I thought I was. We are more than who we think we are. I really believe that. And this book has really inspired me to be brave, to change the way that I think about myself, to change the way that I think about the world, to get out there, to push myself beyond my comfort zone, and to really experience life, like live life out loud to the fullest, to connect with others and not be so afraid. Once we get out of our own way, beautiful things can happen.
Yeah.
That's it for Sorry I'm Late. I Didn't Want to Come by Jessica Pan. And that's it for the very first episode of Babes in Bookland. I think it was a great episode. I had a wonderful time talking with you today, Misty, and I can't wait to have you on again soon. Bye, everyone. Bye, Misty.
Thank you. Bye.